Every human being on the face of the planet makes decisions based on 6 criteria, one of 6 criteria. Their primary driving force behind why they make decisions is based on 6 things that I'd like to spend about 5 minutes teaching you guys. Number 1. Now, these are not necessarily in order because every single human being on the planet places a different value on these needs. And that's what creates our various personalities. So we have a different value attached. Also, so I want you to be thinking about, as I go through the 6 human needs, I want you to be thinking about there are positive ways to meet those needs, there are neutral ways to meet those needs, and then there's destructive ways to meet those needs, or negative ways. Does that make sense? All right, so let's go through them. Number 1, and these are our core human needs, we have a need for certainty. We all, at our base, this is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at our base, at our core, we have a need to know that we'll be fed, that we have food. We have a need to know that we have a certainty that we're gonna have somewhere to sleep tonight. If we don't, that fear or that anxiety level goes through the roof. Yes? We have a need in our relationships to know that there's love within our relationship, right? So there's a certainty to that. We also have a need. How many of you, if you were absolutely 100% certain about the outcome of everything you've done, how many of you would find that boring as heck? Yeah. So in her infinite wisdom, God also created a need for variety, or said another way, uncertainty. Or we'll call that variety. Pardon? Duality, right? It's also what creates within us some internal conflict because they're 2 competing needs. And so if you're not aware of it, subconsciously it'll create anxiety within us, right? So understanding these needs, your own needs, and the order in which you value them is extraordinarily useful in your decision making because we all make decisions based on how we value these needs. Okay, the third one is for significance. We all want to feel like that we matter. We want to feel like our relationships matter. We want to feel like what we're doing matters. We all have a basic human need for significance. The third one, or the fourth one rather, is for connection and love. And or love. This is what is this? A need. It's a need. As a matter of fact, medically, there's a term for it when babies are born. If they don't get any human contact whatsoever, they call it, there's a medical term for it, they call it failure to thrive. Failure to thrive, right? These are our core basic human needs. These are a must, right? These are our survival needs. Then we have 2 spiritual needs, which involve growth. And the 6th is contribution. If you understand this at a core level and you direct your marketing and branding to meet the needs of the consumer, you've got them. That's why Apple is so successful. If you look at lots of different brands out there that have a larger share of the market, that's why. They understand our psychological human needs better than most of us understand our own needs. By the way, that's also why there's conflict in some relationships. If you're in a relationship and you have a partner that values certainty and significance above the others, and you're someone who values growth and connection, you're going to behave certain ways, you're going to show up certain ways, your conversations are going to go certain ways, and it's fairly predictable if you know how the hierarchy and how those work. As you start to understand people's patterns and you start to understand how they go about deriving certainty, right? Drug users will use drugs because it provides them a sense of certainty. And they'll do it to their detriment because it becomes an addiction. Drug addiction satisfies 4 of our basic human needs, which is why they'll go back to it even though they know that they're killing themselves. By the way, we do that in relationships. It's why some of us overeat. It's why some of us drink to excess, because there's a certain, remember I told you that we'll meet those human needs because it's a must. And if whatever we're doing meets 3 or 4 of those human needs, it becomes an addiction. And we'll go back to it over and over and over again, even if it's a negative influence. How many of you would say that you are honest and you value integrity? Like, duh, everyone, right? How many of you lie? Period. Everyone. That's what we'll do to justify it. What's a little white lie? It's harmless. That's the juxtaposition between, look, we will lie if one of our top 2 needs is in jeopardy. Here's an example. Are there things, if you place a high value on love and connection in your relationship, are there certain things that you're reticent or hesitant to talk to your partner about, even though it's important, even though it might be crucial? Are there things that you're reluctant to talk about your partner at times, right? Why? Because you place a higher value on that love and connection, you don't want to jeopardize it. I do mastery classes within our organization several times a year. It's about an 8-week class. And one of the assignments is, look, the more you work on and improving your relationships with your significant others, like it's a great place to practice because there's no downside. You follow? And the better you are at building that, the better you'll be with working with clients. By the way, working on your relationship, your intimate relationships is way more scary. So I went through this process, and the assignment that I gave to the students or my agents in my office was, in a conversational manner, might be interesting for you to go home and ask your spouse, what are 2 or 3 things that I do or could do in our relationship that would make you feel the most certain about our relationship, right? And just go through the list. And then I had, actually it was raised her hand, I know both her and her spouse. And she says, hey, could we bring our husbands in and you train them on how to do that with us? I said, no. She was kind of shocked because I'm real abrupt with her on purpose, right? Interrupt the pattern. I said, no. She was real shocked. And I said, what does do to make you feel significant about your relationship? Go ahead. And she went, and I said, exactly. If you don't know, how could I train him on how to deliver for you? You got to know yourself. That's a huge problem with most of us because we've become so conditioned by society. We are being conditioned by advertising companies, by our culture, by society. I'm really a huge proponent of why not start conditioning yourself and start getting clarity about the outcome that you want in life and what you really want in life. The problem is because of the juxtapositions between some of those and because of a lack of clarity about where your values truly are and how you make your decision making, a lot of us have things that we think or we say we want in life, but if I spend about 45 minutes with you, all of a sudden you'll understand, maybe I don't really place a high value on that. But for years, how many of us feel like we could lose a few pounds? How many of you would say that that's pretty high on your priority list? A lot of people will say that it's super important to them, but then when we break down, they start to discover, really it's about 4 or 5 on my list of things that are truly important to me. However, we'll still go about every day expending emotional energy, beating ourselves up about the fact we didn't go to the gym yesterday or today. How many of you know what I'm talking about here? Right? So that emotional energy and expending that on beating yourself about something that you say or you think that you want, and in reality it's further down the list, costs you. It comes at a cost. We only have so much emotional bandwidth, right? So some of the things that we talk about, this is probably one of the most critical things that we teach, and like literally I do several 8 to 10 week courses amongst our offices a year that's just based on that, right? How many of you can see that if you understood what your client or prospective client, what their values were, and understood by listening to their language patterns and their mannerisms, How many of you feel like if you understood that, you could better serve their interests? Do you see what I'm talking about? It's why so many people, frankly, it's why so many businesses fail. It's why so many salespeople fail. It's why 87% of agents burn out within the first 5 years, versus if you had at least a working, practical understanding of how this works, it'll change your life.